The new amount is €10,239.42 up for grabs. So to be in with a chance of winning, all you have to do is text the word play to 57599. Get your entry in by 3 o'clock Tuesday afternoon, and then across the Go Loud network of stations, Barry Dunn will make the call. If your phone rings, answer within 5 rings, tell him the exact amount in euro and cents, and the cash is yours. So again, the amount for tomorrow, €10,239.42. Text play to 57599. Over 18s only. Text costs €2.50 plus your standard message rate to play, and you are playing across the Go Loud network of stations. Terms and conditions on newstalk.com.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Watch Premier League, Women's Super League, EFL, Scottish Premiership and much more. Live on Sky Sports.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Now then, you're welcome along to the Football Show. Latest from Sellers Park, Crystal Palace 2, Arsenal 0, 46 minutes on the clock. This is not good, Arsenal. This one of their 2 games in hand on Spurs. They are level on points, and they will have to play, of course, before the season is done. But not ideal from Arsenal, especially with Spurs looking so good yesterday. Very happy to bring in Pat Nevin, as ever, on a Monday evening.
Good evening, how are you doing?
Very well. Watching any of this game this evening?
Yeah, was watching it before. Probably surprised like most people are that Palace are 2-0 up just now. But the first goal was very lucky, I think. But really, that Palace ground, see when you play at Sellers Park, and it's no different from it's been for 30 or 40 years, I promise you, it's really small. So there's no space on the pitch whatsoever. So Arsenal want to get the ball down and play it, but they're getting squeezed all over the pitch, and there's no chance, to develop their pretty patterns and, stretch the play. Really well organised, but yeah, honestly, hands up. See when you make a mistake, hands up. I had no idea he would do as well as he's done this year for Crystal Palace. I thought they would struggle with all the changes that they made, but looking at that team, and they've got really important players missing tonight, and they just look absolutely fantastic just now. They're in a great run, and as we look at just now, they're 9th position just now, which, if you'd have asked me to start the season, I'd have said, yeah, decent possibility to go down. They're absolutely cruising.
Well, we chatted to Damien Delaney when Patrick Vieira was appointed, because Damien Delaney would have played for Crystal Palace and knows Steve Parish reasonably well, and he was talking about the Palace plan over the next few years. So in effect, they feel like their area of North London is under-scouted, and they want to become the behemoth.
South London, by the way.
Yes, South London. And so they've built, or they're in the process of building world-class academy, and the plan with Vieira, when they lost a number of players as well, a lot of changes, the plan was, can we hang on for dear life? Let's just hang on for dear life in the Premier League, and that would be absolutely great, and then hopefully the fruits of the academy start to come to fruition and we'll be up and running in a more sustainable way. I would suspect they are also very pleasantly surprised at the job Vieira has done. I think he's surprised a lot of people, myself included, with the job he's done, because the word from France when he arrived was he tinkers a lot, he can't seem to settle on a formation, jury is very much out, and that was basically how he arrived into the Premier League. So it's been really impressive.
And again, don't know how many people, other than people just heard there was a big name and thought, oh, a big name, he'll be great. But that means, it doesn't mean nothing, but it doesn't mean that much either. Because you could be Frank Lampard, you could be Gerrard, whatever. It can go up and down. It can go either way. And it's always been the case for time immemorial. And he is a very big name. So, yeah, you get a little bit, but you won't get much time. You get 3 or 4 games and then people start asking the questions. The thing is, it has looked really good. I think the point they're making it about the youth development, people coming through, to be fair, they've come through a lot quicker than a lot of people expected, some of the players, and they were very unfortunate with Eze. But they keep on finding these new players that do really, really well. Slightly surprised that when they took Edouard, I thought that was a lot of money for a player who I think they could have used the money a wee bit better. But he's done okay, but I don't think he's going to be the long-term answer. But they've got plenty of players there that are well capable. And I do think that pitch and that stadium and those supporters, underline those supporters, they're brilliant down there. Times I've been down there, I was going to say this season, but for the last seasons apart from the COVID time, the noise there is absolutely fantastic. And they never stop either. They never stop. Even when they're losing, in particular when they play, at Selhurst Park, but at the other grounds in London, they just don't stop. And it's a really brilliant thing to see. They don't actually sound like British support or English supporters. They sound like something brought in from another country. They are a joy to be with, and what a lift to give the team. And they're hyper excited tonight, obviously, and rightly so, because the manager's done a great job. They don't look technically inefficient at any point, and the technical players that they brought through have looked incredibly good. And by the way, are going to get better as well.
Yeah. No, it's been very impressive. And I agree on that ground. Even it comes through the television. 5th of May 2014 is a date I suspect Liverpool fans still shed a tear over. Let's talk about the weekend then. Chelsea. This was very strange, considering they had won every game through March. Upheaval all around them, and they had still cruised through. Chelsea won Brighton 4. A first win over Chelsea since 1939. 3 goals scored in 10 minutes. They managed 17 shots. Brentford, I think I called them Brighton there. Brentford, 17 shots to Chelsea's 21. Chelsea had 71% possession, and what's more, were ahead courtesy of Rudiger's amazing strike. And I don't know what happened here, because this is not what we've come to expect from Thomas Tuchel and Chelsea at all.
What happened? I was unfortunate. I watched it live as it was happening, and actually they didn't play really badly. Hey. It's one of those ones you lose 4-1 at home, and Chelsea actually didn't play badly, as you say, 70% possession. But a number of things were happening there. Take nothing away from Brentford. I'd been to see Brentford playing against Burnley recently, and it was I told you before, it was stinking, that game. It was absolutely awful. Probably mostly Burnley's fault. But this time, everything went right tactically. They played in the break brilliantly well. They noted where Chelsea's weakness as well. So, and Eriksen was lovely to watch again, right? So, take that all on board and well done, right? But Chelsea, what's going on? Number one, they played a 4 at the back. They're not really good at that. They're not good at that at all. So they play the 4 at the back, and there's going to be gaps opening up. So if you do play 4 at the back, you really good idea. Have a good sitting midfielder in front there. Didn't have one. It was Ruben Loftus-Cheek, I think, and N'Golo Kante. Now, Kante at the moment has been pushed a little bit further on. So there were these massive gaps that they were able to run onto. And remember, if you've got 4 at the back and you're Chelsea, you're still asking your left back and your right back to fly forward. So there's going to be gaps there. Why did Thomas Tuchel do it? Because this is a team that play with the 3 at the back and, the wing backs, and they just look brilliant. They never lose goals. They very rarely lose goals. I think it was 2 things going on there. When I saw the team, I thought, right, check out for injuries. There's 1 or 2, but more to the point, you're going to have to save some people for the Real Madrid game on Wednesday night, which is far more important. They've got a little bit of a gap between themselves, Arsenal and Spurs, and they thought to themselves, look, let's have a little bit of a go at that. When Chelsea play at their very, very best, either or possibly both, Jorginho plays alongside Kovacic, and they utterly dominate games and they cover area as well. Neither of those 2 players playing, so you think, well, okay, they've definitely been rested. So he's changed the team, he's changed the formation. They've actually still not played that badly. Havertz actually could have had 3 goals in the second half, and the team Brentford played really well. It's just now and again it happens with Chelsea and under Thomas Tuchel. I don't know if you remember last season, 5-2 West Brom, and you just go, what did that come from for a team that weren't losing any goals at all? And it is one of the ones. I was writing a little piece about it, and I was thinking after the game he said, look, don't panic. It's one game. Chelsea are on a pretty good run just now. And you might think that sounds like a hell of a lot of excuses, but there's 2 ways of saying don't panic, right? There's ways of saying it like, Clive Dunn used to say in Dad's Army, don't panic, which means you're panicking. And there's a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy way of saying it, like, don't panic, be cool, this will be fine. And I think it was the latter with Chelsea. It's not a major concern. It certainly isn't a major concern yet. They have got a major concern coming, though. And it's having a look at the games left. Arsenal, I think, is it 8 games left after tonight? Spurs, 8 games left after tonight. They've got a few points to make up. Chelsea, minimum 12, probably more games left. All stuck together. That's going to be hard for them because they are carrying a few injuries just now. So it's not beyond the bounds of possibility that Chelsea won't make it to that top 4. But I still think they're favourites to be one of those 4.
Okay. And he played 4-3-3 as well against Middlesbrough in the FA Cup. You don't think in any way he's working towards that ultimately, do you?
He might be, but I honestly think Thomas Tuchel's favourite situation to get in is a 3-5-2. That's what he wants to play. What that gives him is two centre forwards instead of one, who you're completely and utterly dependent on. At the moment, it's Kai Havertz, and he's done a good job. They tried it with Lukaku; it's not working. But they need somebody up alongside them that can do that job. Now, Werner, in and out. Pulisic, in and out. But if you get the 3-5-2, you get three centre-backs are great. The wing-backs, when they're fully fit, particularly, when they get Chilwell back and they get Reece James, that's fine. See if you get midfield. And they did this against Real Madrid last season. And that'll be on his mind as well. Last season, they played the three midfielders central there. So if it is, say, definitely Kovacic, definitely Jorginho, and either Mount or Kante, three of those four, get them in a midfield. Very few teams in the world will get near them. Very, very few teams in the world will do that.
Okay.
But they're not going to do that in the game against Brentford because they're resting those players. He knows where his bread's buttered. He knows where the importance is. He needs to try and do Real Madrid again. So don't be surprised if you're tunneling your box on Wednesday night and there's three players in that central midfield area, and three of those four players that I mentioned.
Okay, very good. Meanwhile, Brentford 33 points on the board now. They're 11 clear of Watford, so you would think they should be okay, which is a great achievement. And the Christian Eriksen effect has been clear for all to see. He's made a phenomenal difference. I had feared when he returned that he would be diminished somehow, even potentially physically diminished, and yet it was a joy to watch him sprint the length of the pitch in that breakaway move which resulted in his goal, and look physically powerful and fit and confident in himself to make those kind of runs. So it's wonderful. I mean, and he's just such a quality operator as well. He's a joy to watch.
One of those guys, like I think Luka Modric was probably watching that game thinking, all right, that's how you do Chelsea, because they're not exactly similar players, but there's lots of Modric and Eriksen himself. But Eriksen's he's got more power and he's running. He's got more. His physical prowess is better now. Modric is really getting on a bit now, although still a fantastic player. But you look at him now, and he is one of those players. Although he has shown that incredible energy and he's managed to get it back, and you almost getting in the stage of actually not worried about him anymore. He looks that good. It was an incredibly unusual thing that happened to him. He's got the pacemaker in there. He's got the heart restarter in there. So it's almost certainly, I would say he's probably as safe as any other player that's playing. Everyone's in danger at some point because of, things like arrhythmias and cardiomyopathies. They are there for everybody, whether you're a football player, but it particularly hits young athletic men, that problem. But if you look at him, do you know when he slows down a bit? He'll still be all right. He'll still be fine. He'll still be able to use his intelligence in the game, and that ability to, arrive at the right times, play passes in dangerous area. And one of the things about Christian Eriksen is worth underlining. He absolutely tortured Chelsea for a period of time when he was playing for Spurs. He loved playing against. He used to destroy them all the time. Nobody else seemed to be able to do it for periods, and Christian Eriksen will walk on. So it's just brilliant to see A, him back, B, no one's going soft on him now. He wouldn't want it. He's just another brilliant player now. And I heard Thomas Frank speaking earlier on, and he was saying that with Christian, he's not Ronaldo and he's not Messi, but the group just below that, he's in there. And I think there's a good shout for that. I think there's a right good argument that he's in that group below that. And that group below that may be 7, 8, 9 players, whatever. And he's definitely there.
Hanging on to him might be the problem.
And playing for Brentford.
I was just going to say, yeah. Meanwhile, the whole league, well, the whole world of football in many respects has been counting down to this game on Sunday coming for a long time now. From a 14-point gap in January. Now, admittedly, Liverpool had 2 games in hand at that stage, but nonetheless, a 14-point gap in January to be here first week in April, and there's a single point in, and this is decisive, it feels like, is quite extraordinary. So both Liverpool and Man City won over the weekend against Watford and Burnley respectively. They both have Champions League games to come. Liverpool play Benfica, City have Atletico, and then there is this behemoth of a game. In terms of its importance and in terms of how it's going to sway things, is your sense that if City certainly win or even draw, they're most likely to win the league, and if Liverpool win, they're most likely to win the league. Is it, in your mind, is it to that extent pretty much a decider?
I'd love to think it was that way, and it will certainly be built up that way. But you've just explained it perfectly there. The gap was so huge before. You try and make that sort of prediction, and you'll get egg in your face. There's no doubt about it. But I would say one thing. To win the league this season, someone's going to have to get well over 90 points, 92, 93, 94 points. And that's a hard gig, because that means dropping very, very few in these last 8 games. There's 24 points, I think, on offer. So you're talking dropping a handful of points between now and the end of the season. So if you're either team, you do not want to drop points in this one. But A, it's that, and B, you have to keep on going. And the thing about Manchester City and Liverpool, Chelsea to a lesser extent, it's secondary to all the others, but they've got all those games as well to play. You know, they've got the Champions League. You expect them to go ahead in it. They're going to be stressed all the way through it. Who's got the deeper squad? For year after year after year, we've said, oh, it's Man City, don't worry. But you don't say that anymore, because there is a little bit better now, and a good bit better. Jota's been a big, big part of that as well. Calling it just now, I don't think anyone can. Calling it after a game, I still think it's tricky. Whoever wins a game is tiny favourites to win the league, but no more than that.
City's running is definitely the more favourable. They will have Brighton, Watford, Newcastle and Villa at home. So you would think maximum points there. And then they'll be away to Leeds, West Ham, Wolves. West Ham could be tricky on a given day, but again, really favourable. As for Liverpool, they'll have Manchester United at Anfield. They will have Everton. They will have Spurs, who we'll come on to, but Spurs are now a trickier proposition than they were a couple of months ago. And they'll have Wolves as well at Anfield. And then on the road, they're at Newcastle, Southampton, Aston Villa. So the away games aren't as scary, for instance, if scary is the right word to use around Liverpool. Who's in better form, by the way, do you think, ahead of Sunday, Liverpool or City?
Honestly, I think it's hard. I wouldn't call it between the two of them. I honestly think both of them they're so capable of A, playing brilliantly one week, and next week playing averagely and grinding it out. And the times that I went to see Liverpool this season, which has been, I've seen Liverpool in the flesh quite a few times more than I've seen Manchester City in the flesh. But most of the time you think, yeah, you're going to get there. You're probably going to do it. It doesn't matter if you're not playing that well. You will eventually crowd that box, that area. You will have quality coming in from the wide areas so often, and you've got natural finishers there. There's just been enough. It's always felt that there's been enough. Very, very rarely do you think, well, it's 20 minutes to go, you might not get it. You just think, yeah, you probably will. And with City as well, you just, is it going to be Foden? Is it going to be any number? Is it going to be Gundogan? Is it going to, there's probably 8 players there you can mention, and every single one is capable of it. And that's why I say, it's 24 points. That would make Man City, they've got a maximum of 97 to get, and Liverpool have got a maximum of 96. And I still think you need to be in the 90s to win this competition this season. That's how good they are.
Yeah.
There are very few points that are going to be dropped between now and then. So, yeah, it's important, but it's not over.
They've set a remarkable standard. I was listening to Gary Neville talking on the overlap, and he was recalling the treble season of 99. And what he said was, at this stage of the season, March, April on, it's really hard to be in good form, quote unquote, or to be in shiny form. Because there's a degree of, well, we're just getting it done. There's another cup final. We'll exert ourselves as much as we need to. Like, you're beyond the showboating that might have gone on in August almost. I think we're seeing that at times with Liverpool and City. There is a degree of how much of our energy, how much of our emotional intensity do we have to use here to beat Watford today? We're not going to use more than that, because why would we? I do sense that air from them.
Yes, there is that air. And also, on top of that, if you can get rid of any of the Champions League games in the first leg, if you can kind of wrap it up, you're not going to win 3, 4, 5-0 maybe. But if you can say, right, actually, that job's just about done, and you can have a certain level of not exactly cruising, but using other players, it makes a gigantic difference at this time in the season. So they keep the energies, because the games are so tightly bunched together now. And yeah, the other thing is you watch those two teams, and because they've got the match intelligence, get the job done. It will be a grind now and again. But the other thing is, once you've got the job done, learn how to control it. Learn how to see it again for 25, 30 minutes. And again, it's phrases that have been used for time immemorial. It's just harder to do it now because there's lots of teams coming out chasing and battling and closing you down and making it more difficult. I would say in that area, I would say Manchester City have got a bit of an edge. They can just pass teams out of existence and just keep it and keep it and keep it. And they get sickened a wee bit. We've all seen it before, particularly at the Etihad. You go a couple of goals up. They know if they come out, they'll probably get picked off, and they try to, and they do. But then they almost give up. I'm not seeing that so much against Liverpool. People look at the defence and think, yeah, we might be able to get to them. And even the game at the weekend there, in Liverpool, yeah, they win the game, but you look at the chances that they gave up during that game that absolutely should have been taken.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's happening quite as much in Manchester City. So I'm still looking at thinking, as we speak, it's Man City. I'd still put them as the favourites to win it, but it's very, very little in it. And if Liverpool win at the weekend, I think that makes them tiny, slight favourites over them. But more than that, I definitely wouldn't say it. It's not all over.
No. There's very little new to say about either side at this stage of the season, but at the weekend, Joe Gomez reminded everybody of his quality, really. So he's playing it right back. I mean, and made his foray really as a centre half in particular alongside Van Dijk. Hasn't been able to get back in ahead of Matip or Konate, and he's just had the most horrific luck with injury. This was just his second Premier League start. He'd played against Norwich as well, and we're presuming Alexander-Arnold comes back in for the Benfica game and certainly the City game. But geez, talk about quality of delivery for the Diogo Jota goal and a few other moments as well. I wasn't as aware he had that in his locker to boot. So I mean, this guy's too good to be a Liverpool bench player, I think.
Yeah, and it's another one of those things, when do you come into your very best? Particularly, I often say it as a centre-back, but the adaptability, if you've got that adaptability, now, you don't need to do it that much at Liverpool because they're a very set system the vast majority of the time. But now and again, they will have to adapt that. They will have to change that. And if you're a player and you're not going to get a game at centre-back, you need to find something else. There's very few opportunities there because, it's usually an incredibly sorted out Alexander-Arnold will be right fullback. But that ball in there, I'll be honest with you, right? I was watching the highlights and I kind of took my eye off it for a minute and I seen the ball coming in. I thought, typical Alexander-Arnold. No, it's not. What?
Yeah.
Well, it did, didn't it? It looked exactly like him. And I watched it a second time and realised it wasn't him, which was the second time it happened in a game I was covering at the weekend, actually. It happened in the commentary of the Celtic Rangers, or the Rangers Celtic game that I was covering. And very difficult to see the difference between a couple of players there who looked very, very similar for the first goal, for Celtic's first goal. But if you don't keep your eye on it, that he has got the qualities. Now, I don't think you can pay a bigger compliment than that he has got the qualities. And Alexander-Arnold, he is one of those players where you think, he's absolutely world-class going forward. I'm not sure what about him defensively because he's not that often caught out one-on-one individually. When he is caught, it's because he's overlapping, and I'm going to say too far, but he's overlapping to exactly where the man just told him to go. Actually getting done one-on-ones, you just hardly ever actually see that existing on the pitch. But maybe that's something to look at, thinking, well, if you're bringing in, somebody else who isn't going forward quite as much, maybe that gives you a wee bit more cover at the back sometimes. And certainly it's very, very good to have Gomez now.
Just glancing at Selhurst Park here, Crystal Palace 3, Arsenal 0. 69 minutes on the clock. Actually, it was a replay. I hadn't seen the goal originally. It was a replay.
Oh, it's all right.
There we go.
Every Chelsea fan going, yes, get in there. Because Arsenal they have been fantastic, but it's you cannot count anything in this game in the Premier League just now.
Yeah.
Too many teams. There's certain teams that will fight their way out of it, and Brentford have done a real good job of doing that. But there's other teams that once they actually feel as if they're safe, and Palace, I think it's 37 points. I think they're safe. They're not going down, right? They're well safe just now. I think possibly even mathematically. When that happens, the shackles are off. go and enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
And that's a team that's got enough players to go out and enjoy themselves, and they're a dangerous beast when they do that.
No, they sure are. They were substituting Jean-Philippe Mateta, so they showed his goal again. That's what was going on there. Because then it cut to him walking in the sideline. I thought, he's not really celebrating. And that's when I realised,
Told you, it's like we do in the commentaries at some of the games. If you look away for a second, you can get a player wrong. And as I say, I was doing the Rangers Celtic game, and I did look away a couple of times for a second, and that is just unacceptable in a Celtic Rangers game. Do not look away for a second.
Well, I do want to talk to you about that game. We're going to take a very short break. I want to talk to you about that game, a little bit about Spurs, and then there's not much new to say about Manchester United, but they were truly abysmal in many ways in their draw against Leicester. We'll take a short break. Our football coverage is brought to you by Sky. You can watch every UEFA Champions League and Europa League match live on BT Sport this season. We're back with Pat Nevin in just one moment.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, proud partner and supporter of the Republic of Ireland women's national football team.
This is News Talk. News Talk's Talking History podcast focuses on the human side of history, unravelling the gritty, dirty and sometimes uncomfortable side we don't usually hear much about.
That crowd defeated one of the best armies in the world.
They're much more interested in presenting her as the perfect counter-Reformation saint.
Presented by Professor Patrick Gagan.
So let's talk about the legend of Spartan warrior supremacy.
This podcast takes a critical look at some of our great historical personalities, plus the political, social and cultural events that have shaped our history.
Well, it was said that you could trust Shackleton with your life, but not your money or your wife.
New episodes of Talking History are released every week on newstalk.com or on the Newstalk app, powered by GoLoud.
Have you downloaded the LiveScore app yet? If not, you're missing out on more live UEFA Champions League action than anywhere else. And whether you're watching on your phone or tablet or casting direct to your TV, the free LiveScore app gives you even more ways to watch. LiveScore, the new home of the UEFA Champions League. It's more than a score. Download the app and watch Benfica, Liverpool and Man City Atletico Madrid for free. And every minute of every UEFA Champions League game this season. Registered Republic of Ireland users only.
Short family holiday? Chill get-together with friends? Go Breaks will find the best hotel for you from just €75 per night.
Go Breaks.
1 in 5 men surveyed in Ireland regularly experience erectile dysfunction. All sorts of men in all walks of life. But you can do something about that. Ask your pharmacist about Viagra Connect. Now you don't need a prescription, and the pharmacist will advise you if Viagra Connect is suitable for you. Contains sildenafil for men over 18 years of age with erectile dysfunction. Maximum dosage frequency is 1 50mg tablet per day. Always read the label. Brought to you by Viatris of Unit 35 Baldoyle Industrial Estate, Dublin. Visit www.viagraconnect.ie.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, all the football you love in one place. Across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
Welcome back. 72 minutes on the clock. Crystal Palace 2, Arsenal 0. Meanwhile, in the League of Ireland Premier Division, UCD at home to Derry City are 2-0 down. 86 minutes on the clock there. Meanwhile, Finn Harps 2, Drogheda United 1 is the latest after 71 minutes. Pat Nevin is still with us. Pat, you mentioned you were covering the game at Ibrox over the weekend. Celtic 2-1 winners. They are 6 points clear with 6 games left in the season, so you would think huge favourites to go on and win the title. The game overshadowed somewhat because Rangers fans threw glass and bottles onto the pitch, reportedly hit one member of the Celtic backroom team. Stewards were cleaning the debris and there was a delay in the game. Coins and glass picked up off the pitch, and according to a Celtic statement, the backroom, a member of staff, had to have stitches, which is really awful. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst didn't go overly strong on the situation. He said, it's not what you want. Chris Sutton felt a bit freer. He said, absolute scumbags. Police Scotland are involved in the situation. So it's pretty grim, obviously, and I don't know what your sense of it was watching. Was it a big delay and was it obvious that somebody had been hit?
No, that wasn't. But what was obvious was the broken bottle that was thrown on. And it was thrown on just at some point during half-time break. So when Joe Hart went into his goal, there was the smashed bottle pieces all over the front of his goal. And it's kind of weird because your first thought is, and I'm sure a lot of people's is, if you throw a bottle on to a grass pitch, it doesn't generally splinter. It just bounces. But this thing was like smashed, and you think, what? And there's this, I don't know, and I'm just wondering, see if you've actually smashed the ball first and then thrown it on. That's just off the scale moronic to do something like that. I mean, it's moronic enough as it is, but that's off the scale to do that. What was upsetting was actually watching during the first half, and it was happening all the time, not with bottles, but with lighters and coins and things like that, where we're throwing at the Celtic players all the way through it. Now, there were, I think, 700 Celtic fans in, which hasn't been the case for quite some time. It's just like being Celtic Park, it's all Celtic, Ibrox, it's all Rangers. And you just look at it and you think, honestly, can we never get away from this? Can we never get beyond it? And the acceptability, if it's one, you say, right, okay, it's one idiot. And we all go into that, and I fall into that trap as well. It's one idiot. But we now see it just a wee bit too often. It's happening in English games, not quite to the same level. At that game, it was happening a hell of a lot. And remember, this is an early kickoff. It's not as if everybody should be tanked up before this game. You know, if they've been drinking Buckfast all the way through that, and there was somebody showed a picture of lots of Buckfast bottles that had allegedly been collected after the game. And I say allegedly, I don't know. And it's unthinkable that everybody would be absolutely out of their heads by that point in time. There will be a few complete idiots. But the concept, so there's three possibilities with that bottle, that specific one that was right in front of his where he was diving, right? And by the way, where the Rangers players would be sliding in trying to score a goal, right? The thought of a huge big bottom of a bottle all jagged, you're kneeing into that, you're legging it, a bit career ender if you're unlucky, absolute career ender. But if A, you just threw it on, it's bad enough. B, threw it on and maybe it smashed off the crossbar and then sprinkled your possibility of that, right? It's an outside chance. But C, see if you've come in and then smashed this bottle up, then thrown it on at half time. Honestly, what world do we live in? We just absolutely give up. But the concept that so many people, and I'm not saying it was hundreds, but there was enough people that when there was one occasion when Jota went over to take a corner kick and it was just raining down. You know, just thought, what century are we in here? It was horrible, absolutely horrible to see. Certainly the Scottish Government have been as hard as Chris Sutton on it. They've been very, very hard on it. They don't take kindly that sort of stuff as well. What do? You can't cage them in. Do you stop a section? You make sure there's like the first 10 seats are absolutely free so you can't throw things. Do you get a ring of, stewards or policemen? Because I remember the days, many days gone by, where you'd have a ring of policemen around the ground. The whole way around the pitch, you'd have a ring of policemen just looking up. Do you have to go back to that sort of stuff again? Because the concept that it's acceptable to throw things on is just not on. But when it's bottles and things like that, it was very, very upsetting. Because I enjoyed the game, by the way.
Yeah.
Also think Rangers did really well, played really well in the second half. Celtic fought defensively better than I actually thought they were capable of doing. And you just got to applaud Celtic for having an amazing season, considering where they came from last season and what Ange Postecoglou's done. Not just by the fact that he's, he turned the team around, but his recruitment has been absolutely
frightening.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So tell me this, Premier League chairman gives you a ring and says, I'm thinking of Postecoglou. Yay or nay? No,
it will happen. I'm pretty sure it will happen. He's just been successful everywhere. Australia, then on to Japan, and then you watch him do it in Scotland, where a team that he had to change so quickly mid-season. Remember, he came in right at the end. He wasn't going to be the first choice Celtic manager. It looked as if it was Eddie Howe. To do that so quickly, to have such knowledge, and to maximise the potential of just about every single player there. Now, there is a weakness. There's a very glaring weakness in the team at the moment. They play at this incredible pace, this high energy, high octane stuff, very skillful as well, very attack minded. And then they blow up with 20 minutes to go very regularly. It's whether they can keep on doing that and actually build that strength into the squad. The one thing they have got, they made 5 changes against Rangers in the second half. And what was really unusual for any Scottish team was not one of those changes made them weaker. Not one. Not even, not a thought of it. And these were important players that were going off, but it didn't make them weaker. So there's strength and depth he's managed to build in it as well. The whole structure and balance of the thing's great.
And as I understand it, so correct me if I'm wrong, he's unearthed a few diamonds from the part of the world where he had been working. So he would have had a knowledge there and an advantage there and other teams in British football. So is there anything to be said about the style of football he's played? Because obviously you can't magic up these brilliant transfer coups forever.
Yeah, it's a good point. He's looked at the J-League. He's got Kyogo, who's the real star, and what hasn't been available for weeks and weeks and weeks because of a hamstring injury. But he's the absolute star, and the one I can remember telling you the day after his first game, boy, watch this kid.
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant. You stick Hatate, Maeda, so there's a good few that he's brought in. Got the best out of Giacomakis, which is maybe not that difficult to see because he was a goal scorer over in Europe for quite a long time. But yeah, it's a big bit harder to be able to do that in England. But if you get one of the better teams at the higher end of the Premier League, which I don't think is beyond the bounds of possibility, just because of the way he comports himself, it's pretty special. It's pretty fantastic. He's never spooked. He's never affected. He's just so grounded, and he keeps everybody around him so grounded as well. You look at how flaky some managers, even the top ones, get. You could be Jose Mourinho, and he has his flaky times. You just almost can't see Postecoglou doing that unless something very unfair happens. But generally, he's absolutely extraordinary. So if you're a Premier League manager and you think, well, okay, we'll just multiply that budget you've had at Celtic by 10 and see if you can do the same sort of thing. I don't think there's many out there, because Brendan Rodgers came down and done perfectly well, and others have come down and done reasonably well after a period of time, like Moyes, etc. in the past. But you're looking at him now and thinking, I can't see why he wouldn't do it. He's not done Champions League, I'll grant you that. He's not done any of the top leagues in Europe. He's not done Spain, he's not done Italy, he's not done England. If he doesn't go to England, eventually in time, certainly one of a Spanish club of a high repute will take a chance on him, and that may be his link in. But honestly, I think I like him. You're like a brilliant guy, but B, he's getting the best out of people, and I don't know if you can do much better than get the best out of people.
Yeah, very impressive. Meanwhile, at Sellers Park, Palace 3, Arsenal 0 for sure. Zaha scored a penalty there. So
yeah, you can see into the future. I always thought you could.
Yeah. So 3-0 there, 82 minutes. That's a very impressive Crystal Palace performance. Back on the Premier League for a moment. About the best thing you can say about Manchester United's season is that there are only 8 games left, because this was just more of the really insipid, aimless stuff at the weekend. Of 1-1 draw with Leicester. Marcus Rashford's got to be wondering what's going on. Ronaldo to pull out the morning of the game. There were literally no other strikers available, and Rangnick said, yeah, no, you're going to stay on the bench, and he went with the same front six that didn't work against Man City. And afterwards he said Marcus Rashford's going to have to take steps himself to rehabilitate his career. So there's a lot going on there with Rashford.
I think we talked about that before.
Yeah.
I remember telling you a while back, watching him at the Crystal Palace game, and down again at Selhurst Park, and watching him and really saying to you, there's something wrong with him.
Yeah.
I don't know, and I didn't think it was injury either. Something's affecting him very, very badly. He is not the person he was before. I can't tell you what that is. I have no idea what it was, but something has to change for him. And whether it's a change of scenery, a change of manager, a change of whatever, something's got to change.
It's very sad almost at this stage, given the fanfare with which he arrived. Ralph Rangnick, by the way, in his role as consultant, I suppose, as more so than a very average manager at the moment, also reported to Manchester United that it's going to take them 3 transfer windows to solve the problem, which seemed incredibly optimistic to me, unless he's talking just summer transfer windows, in which case, yeah, maybe by 2025 the place won't be a mess.
Probably ought to get Ange Postecoglou in for the manager's job.
Wow.
He can do it much, much quicker.
Yeah.
It's very hard to do it because you can move out players at certain clubs purely for financial ways that you can do it, because it's not going to absolutely hammer you. The idea of some of the players that he would have to move on, not recoup anywhere near the transfer monies, and also realise that are they going to get that sort of money that they run elsewhere? And then you have to recoup some of their payments before they budge. And that's why you're talking that amount of transfer windows, because you almost have to let them run down. Because if you don't let them run down, you're paying them to leave, and that's unthinkable. Well, particularly for the owners of that particular club, I can't imagine them doing that, knowing that there's enough. Well, I don't know if there's enough, but knowing that there are plenty of very, very capable players at that team, but they're absolutely not getting the best out of them. And again, it's back to that thing of maximising the potential of every player that you've got in your books and finding out if you can do that, and if you can't do that, how quick can you move them out? It does look like that's not a group that's going to trouble the top echelons of the Premier League or indeed the Champions League for quite some time. So do you keep on tinkering, or do you say, no, let's do it, batter over a period of a year and a half, 2 years, you completely change it? But when did they give a manager that amount of time? Now, I'm not just talking Man United here, I'm talking generally. Most managers, they just don't get that amount of time. You will whoever you bring in, you will have to, and halfway through this sentence, I want to stop, but I'm going to say it anyway. You're going to have to trust somebody for a couple of years, even when it goes badly. Good luck with that, because nobody does.
No, well, that's why they have to hire somebody with a track record, because during the Solskjaer era, you were saying, well, we trust you, but then there was nothing really to rely upon when things weren't going well to give you a sense of security. So they'll have to hire, it's Ten Hag, it seems to be, at the moment, who's in pole position. I just can't get over how bad they are. Like, really, just watching them, and they don't have a clue what they're trying to do as a group. And that's almost something you couldn't say about the other 19 teams in the league. I think they are the worst prepared, and it's hard to know where Rangnick starts and the players begin on that, but they look to be like the worst prepared team in the league in terms of some kind of methodology. It's just a lot of them are very, very good players, so they get away with it a little bit, but it's kind of incredible how it's unravelled this season. They're so bad.
It's the word that was the buzzword quite some time ago, which is identity. What is the identity of this Manchester United team? What are they? What do they do? What's their USP? And you can say that about just about any other team. And you're right. You absolutely cannot say about them just now. Now, to be fair, if I'm Ralph Rangnick and I come in and I know what I want, and then I try and get him to do it, and then they either A, won't, or B, can't do what he needs, he's kind of stuffed then. Because he's had his methodology for quite some time, and he wants to impose that on them. And they're not having it. Absolutely not having it. You can see it. As a group, they're not having it. And again, get back to the first conversation we had right at the start of the season when, Ronaldo comes in and I'm scratching my chin and going, I'm not saying that, And I know I often see these things and I wait for the Twitter mob to have a dig at me, and then I stop laughing 5 minutes later. People like, Lukaku coming into Chelsea, and I'm going, what? I can't see that. And Ronaldo, yeah, fantastic, and that's a real buzz, and that will sell a few shots, and yes, he'll score a few goals. But Ronaldo, where he is just now and how he plays, you better have so many young players around him playing at that tempo that he can't play at. And if you don't have that, good luck, mate. And again, I'm not aiming at Ronaldo, because you could aim at Pogba, you could aim at anyone in that team that are not willing or able to do what Rangnick absolutely thinks they need to do, because you consider the energy levels with a Manchester City or a Liverpool, and it's not even close to comparable, is it?
No. Meanwhile, we couldn't possibly have Antonio Conte manage Manchester United brigade are looking on as he finally gets to grips with Spurs, as a brilliant manager is invariably going to do. 5-1 winners against Newcastle. He's got his charging wing backs. Matt Doherty, thankfully, back in the fold from an Irish point of view, back playing very well. Harry Kane is world class once again. They've beefed up their midfield. Bentancur, and then Dejan Kulusevski is increasingly looking very good as well for a 21, 22-year-old. Conte, who for the first few months of his tenure was saying pretty negative things, has now conceded this weekend, Pat, yeah, we're pretty hard to beat right now, which is ominous. There is such, in opposition to what we've just said about Old Trafford, there's such a clarity about what they're doing now.
Yeah, again, it's one of those ones where he comes into that club and he will not, just his personality, he will not care. Don't care who you are, don't care what your name is. If you're not doing it the way I want to do it, you will not play for this club, and you're out. You'll be sitting over there somewhere. And it's just that force of personality that he's got, and strength of personality that he's got, that he will get that from every single player. And he's started to do it again. I have to say, Kulusevski, seriously, what a player.
Yeah.
Looking at what they had, going forward, Bergwijn as well as Son and Kane, and you think, can you make that much better? And then you look at him and you think, wow, that's something else again that might make them an even better unit going forward. And consider the amount of goals that Son and Kane work for each other. You go and add that into the mix, and certainly the was it the first goal they scored? Doherty, the first goal, I'm trying to remember.
Second, I think.
Second one, cross from one full back to the other full back, or wing back to the other wing back. Dream scenarios, and then Davis, another one of the full backs or centre backs, he goes and scores a goal as well. So, but that's the dream scenario with the players, with the managers that play that system, with 3 at the back with wing backs, be it 5 in the middle or 4 in the middle. See when one full back or wing back crosses it to the other to score, honestly, they just faint in ecstasy, because that is the epitome of what their team is supposed to be about. Getting those players coming into areas where you can't really mark them from. So they've all doing it exactly the way they wanted to do it. Bentancur, as you say, fitted in so well, because he knows exactly what he needed in there, and it's great to see him doing that. I'm really, really happy for him, because he is one of those managers you think he'll do a year or two there and he's going to fall out with people, and he does, because he's so passionate about it. But I definitely always felt that Mourinho wasn't a good fit. Oddly enough, he doesn't look like a good fit, but in a way he is. Absolutely in a way he is, because his absolute brutal honesty is something that Levy will react to.
Yeah.
Absolutely react to well. And it's a weirdly good fit, them two.
Yeah. Again, on the United front, it seemed like the best reason not to hire him was like, but he's not going to be here for 10 years. He's just going to be here for 2 years and like dramatically improve everything.
The thing is, if you've been, the owners of a club, and you've had to deal with someone like Mourinho or others that have been there and they've got, obviously Ole Gunnar Solskjaer didn't moan, but others that are grumpy when you leave and there's some mud being slung, and you look across at Antonio Conte, who won't hold back in his invective when he wants to. Yeah, you're right. That will affect them. They're human beings. It does affect them. But I don't think there's much doubt in many people's mind. They blew it. They missed Conte. He was the right one for them. They needed a massive, massive change, and they missed a chance. That boat sailed, and you can't imagine it changing. With Conte having what he's got there, he must look at United and think, that's a job.
Yeah. And
are they going to give me the time to do it? Highly unlikely. So I think that's another boat that's gone for them. But I'm really happy. I mean, anytime I'm fortunate enough to meet Conte, oddly enough, I've seen his light side. And I was having, because obviously if you're not one of these players, he's different with you, and it was a lot of fun. But he's got them eyes.
Yeah,
he has got them eyes. Honestly,
assassin eyes. Yeah,
you go right. I'll stop now. Yeah. Yes, but he's brilliant at that. He's and he can affect anyone like that.
Yeah, I can imagine. Might talk to you a bit more about him at some stage in the future, but we are out of time. So Pat Nevin, as ever on a Monday, thank you very much.
Pleasure. See you soon.
Cheers. Pat Nevin with us pretty much every Monday on the show. Will be next week for Liverpool Man City, which we have live, by the way, 4:30. If you can't get to a TV and you're looking for commentary, then we have the game live here on Off the Ball. Palace 3, Arsenal 0. They are now into added time at Selhurst Park.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, proud partner and supporter of the Republic of Ireland women's national football.